When I woke up from the coma, my best friend was looking at me, his face a mixture of guilt and sorrow. "Ethan, I'm so glad you're okay," he said. "I swear I'll never help you go after my sister again." But I just stared at him, completely lost. "Leo, you have a sister?" Leo's eyes widened in disbelief. "Of course I do, Chloe. Weren't you in love with her at first sight? You've been chasing her for 7 years straight." "Ethan, don't tell me you have amnesia. Did you really only forget my sister?" I didn't see what was so shocking about it and couldn't help but press him. "Who on earth is Chloe?" Leo's expression turned complicated, and he looked at me like he had a massive headache. He had no choice but to explain it to me, piece by piece. "Chloe is my sister. Years ago, you came over to my house, saw her, and fell for her instantly. You've been chasing her for 7 years. As I listened to him ramble on about all this, my mind was a complete blank. "So, is she my girlfriend now?" A flicker of embarrassment crossed Leo's face. "No, my sister has always been cold to you. She's in love with someone else, so she didn't just reject you, she rejected everyone who pursued her. The only person in her heart is her first love, Julian Chin. When they broke up back then, she was so devastated she drank herself into the hospital and nearly died. She's never gotten over it. This time, the accident happened because she was on her way to pick up Julian, who was just flying back into the country. She left you alone on the highway in a downpour, and that's how you got into the crash and lost your memory." Those few sentences left me stunned into silence, my expression a mess of confusion. "So you're telling me your sister is cold to me, is in love with someone else, and even hurt me for his sake? What could I possibly like about her? You're not making this up, are you? How could I lie to you? Everyone knows you're hopelessly in love with my sister." Leo shook his head and quickly handed me my phone, gesturing for me to unlock it. I took it, skeptical, and my fingers expertly typed in a sequence of numbers, but the phone didn't unlock. "Your passcode isn't your celebrity crush anymore. It's my sister's birthday, 0823. I did as Leo said, and the phone unlocked. The moment I opened the Photos app, thousands of pictures of a woman I didn't know flooded my screen. I stared at her stunningly beautiful face for a long time before it hit me that Leo must be telling the truth. Chloe's looks were exactly my type, but in all these pictures, which were clearly taken secretly from different angles, every glance she directed at the camera was icy and devoid of warmth. A heavy feeling settled in my chest as I scrolled through them. I switched to the Notes app. It was filled with dense entries about Chloe, her favorite foods, her pet peeves, everything she liked and hated. Besides that, there were daily diary entries, a chronicle of my unrequited love. 7th Valentine's Day. Spent 2 weeks rehearsing my confession countless times. Unsurprisingly, I was rejected again. "Chloe, you said we could never work, but I still can't let you go. You got drunk again tonight. You mistook me for him, calling his name hundreds of times. You said you can't forget him, that even though you know he won't come back, you'll wait for him like a moth drawn to a flame." In that moment, I felt like we were the same, both so pitiful and pathetic in our love. Even though I had no memory of these events, the pain and despair soaked into every word resonated deep within me. My chest ached as if it had been pierced, a continuous, dull throb spreading through it. A lump formed in my throat, and my eyes began to burn, threatening tears. I stood there, stunned, unable to compose myself for a long time. The silence in the hospital room stretched on before Leo finally spoke. "So, what are you going to do now? Do you want to get more treatment? My uncle is a really great psychiatrist. I don't remember any of it, but I can feel how much pain I must have been in when I was in love with your sister. Since I've forgotten, maybe it's for the best." I took a deep breath, looked down at my phone, and deleted everything, every last photo and note. Leo stared at me, shocked. He was about to say something when his phone suddenly rang. After he hung up, he grabbed his bag and rushed out. "I have to run home for something. Ethan, you get some rest. I'll come back to see you when I'm done." I was just about to get some rest when a call came in from my parents. "Ethan, do you remember when I mentioned that old childhood engagement pact your father and I made for you? It's been put off for years now. Have you given it any more thought?" My mother was fully prepared for me to say no. This call was just a last-ditch effort. But after a few seconds of silence, I surprised her by agreeing. "Okay, once I've wrapped things up here, I'll come home and honor the agreement." My mother on the other end of the line was floored, her voice filled with disbelief. "What did you just say? You're not in love with your friend's sister anymore? You insisted on staying in New York City for her, refused to come back to Los Angeles, and chased her for all those years. What suddenly changed your mind?" I didn't know how to explain the amnesia, and I didn't want my family to worry about the accident. So after a moment's thought, I gave a vague answer. I don't like her anymore, and I never will again. After the call, I did a quick calculation of how long it would take to sort everything out here and bought a plane ticket back to Los Angeles for 2 weeks from now. Just then, a nurse came to tell me it was time for a follow-up exam. I got into my wheelchair, and who would have thought that the moment I rolled out the door, I'd look up and see a very familiar face. It was the woman from the photos, Chloe. The instant she saw me, the coldness in her eyes intensified, turning to ice. How did you know I was here? Did you have to follow me to the hospital, too? I never imagined my first meeting with Chloe after the amnesia would be like this, or that she would be so hostile toward me. Took me a moment to recover. You've got it wrong. I'm not following you. I was in a car accident on the highway, so I'm here recovering. Chloe frowned, her eyes scanning over me. She was about to say something else when someone walked out of the hospital room behind her. She immediately went to his side. Julian, I told you to get some rest. Why are you out here? Hearing the name, I instinctively turned and saw Julian Chen, pale and dressed in a blue and white striped shirt. The moment our eyes met, a small smile touched his lips. He looked at Chloe with mild surprise. It was getting stuffy in there, so I came out for some air. And this is... Chloe's gaze hardened slightly. My brother's friend, Ethan Hayes. He's a designer in our company's design department. We don't know each other well. A gentle smile played on Julian's lips. Mr. Hayes, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Julian Chen. With your head wrapped up like that, I take it you've had an accident. I nodded. Yeah, a car crash. I have a mild concussion and some memory loss. Before I could finish, a nurse called out from behind me, patient in 1124, Ethan Hayes, it's time for your exam. At that, I had no desire to make small talk with people I couldn't even remember. I said a quick goodbye and wheeled myself off toward my examination. Behind me, however, Chloe frowned at my uncharacteristically detached reaction, her eyes lingering on me for a rare extra moment. Didn't I usually pester her endlessly whenever I saw her? How could I leave so easily now? After a few routine checkups, I went to the pharmacy to pick up my prescription. On the way, I passed the hospital garden. The weather was nice, so I decided to get some sun and went for a stroll by myself. I had just reached the fountain when Julian approached me. Mr. Hayes, out for some fresh air? I was surprised to run into him again and politely exchanged a few pleasantries. Julian was surprisingly forward. After just a moment, he started pushing my wheelchair, a friendly smile on his face. Chloe just had to take a call, so I'm on my own and a little bored. Since you're Leo's friend and you've worked with Chloe for so many years, there's something I wanted to ask you. I heard some guy has been relentlessly pursuing her for 7 years. Do you know who he is? And how does Chloe feel about him? I froze for a second but quickly composed myself, my voice steady. I have no idea, but if she's been pursued for 7 years and her heart still belongs to you, it's clear that you're the only one who matters to her. No one else is important. Hearing the conviction in my voice, Julian looked surprised and a little bashful. You know about Chloe and me? Does she talk about me often? I remembered what Leo had said about how much she loved Julian, and I gave a slight nod. Julian's face flushed a deeper red, his eyes shining with happiness. Chloe was a year ahead of me in college. She was the brilliant, popular girl on campus. Everyone wanted to date her, but she fell for me at first sight. She pursued me for a long time before I finally agreed to give it a try. Once we were together, she did everything for me. She'd go to my classes with me, study with me in the library. She once covered the entire campus in roses for our anniversary, and she'd get jealous for days if another girl even talked to me. We dated for 4 years. Everyone said I was the love of her life, and she told me over and over that she'd marry me after graduation. But I didn't want to be tied down here. I had my own dreams to chase, so I turned her down, broke up with her, and went abroad to study. But I knew all these years that she never got over me, so I decided to come back. When my plane landed in New York, I was honestly a little nervous. But the moment I saw her running through that downpour at the airport to grab my bags, I knew nothing had changed. I've had a cold the last few days, just adjusting to being back, and she's been taking care of me around the clock. I can tell she wants to get back together, but for some reason, she hasn't said anything. I was starting to think maybe she'd fallen for that other guy, which is why I wanted to ask you. I listened quietly as he recounted their history, my own heart feeling nothing at all. I even managed a small smile. She probably doesn't want to rush things. Maybe she's planning a surprise for you. Hearing that, Julian seemed to relax. He waved goodbye, but as he did, his phone slipped from his hand and fell into the fountain. He instinctively bent down to grab it, lost his balance, and tumbled headfirst into the water. I was stunned for a second watching him fall in. I immediately started to wheel myself away to get help, but then I saw Chloe sprinting toward us. Without a moment's hesitation, she jumped into the fountain and pulled Julian out. He coughed up water and slowly started breathing again, and only then did the frantic worry on her face begin to subside. I watched her every reaction. I was about to go find a doctor when she rounded on me, her voice sharp. "Did you push him in on purpose? Instead of helping, you were just going to sneak away and pretend nothing happened." I was shocked that she would accuse me of that. "He fell in trying to get his phone. I didn't push him, and I wasn't going to leave him there." Chloe cut me off, her gaze frigid. I was gone for 5 minutes, and suddenly Julian is by the fountain and in the water for no reason. "If you didn't do it, who did?" With that, she shoved me, wheelchair and all, straight into the fountain. Her voice was like ice. "Ethan, I tolerated you pestering me before, but Julian is my line in the sand. Since you can't take a hint, you're going to pay the price for what you've done." Then, she called over security guards and ordered them to stand watch, telling them not to let anyone near to help me. The cold water rushed into my nose and mouth, choking me. I struggled alone, and the wound on my leg from the accident tore open, blood clouding the water around me. My strength faded, and my body trembled uncontrollably from the pain as I began to sink. The last thing I saw before I lost consciousness was Chloe carrying Julian away. I don't know how much time had passed, but the next thing I saw was Leo's worried face. "I was only gone for a few hours. How did you end up in the fountain? The doctor said 1 more minute and you might not have made it." "You scared the hell out of me." Remembering what happened before I passed out, I fell silent. I wanted to tell Leo the truth, but then I remembered Chloe was his sister, and I held my tongue. I just shook my head weakly, my voice exhausted. "I'm fine. Don't worry." Leo's eyes immediately reddened. He didn't say anything, but for the next few days, he never left my side in the hospital room. During that time, he brought up Chloe several times, as if trying to gauge my reaction. "Ethan, knowing my sister, if anyone else had confessed to her as many times as you have, she would have found a way to get rid of them long ago. But she's put up with you for all these years. That has to mean she has some feelings for you, even if she doesn't realize it herself. Are you sure you don't want to try and remember her?" If I'd heard that right after I woke up, I might have believed him. But after what happened at the fountain, it just sounded like wishful thinking. I showed Leo the pictures my coworkers had sent me over the past couple of days. Candid shots of Chloe out shopping, eating, and going to the movies with Julian. My voice was flat, devoid of emotion. "The only reason she tolerated me was for your sake, Leo. If fate wanted me to forget her, it means we were never meant to be. The man she's been waiting for is back now. It's time for me to let go of a love that was never going anywhere." Seeing that I had truly made up my mind, Leo didn't press the issue. He just sighed heavily. "More than anyone, I wanted my sister to come to her senses and be with you. Then you'd be my brother-in-law, and we'd be family forever. But since you've decided to give up, I won't push it. From now on, I'm staying out of whatever happens between her and her first love. We'll always be best friends, no matter what." I nodded firmly and pulled him into a hug. We talked for a little while longer, and then Leo went to take care of my discharge paperwork and helped me into his car. "You've been cooped up in the hospital for so long, you must be going stir-crazy. I'll throw a party, get some people together to celebrate you getting out." Figuring this might be my last chance to see these friends, I agreed and went with him to the club. But when we reached the private room and opened the door, we both froze. Sitting right in the middle of the room were Chloe and Julian. Leo looked completely blindsided. "Chloe? What are you doing here?" A few of the guys who organized it pulled us inside, explaining, "You said the more the merrier, right?" So I invited Chloe, and she brought Julian along. "Lively enough for you." Leo looked like he was about to strangle the guy who spoke. I knew what he was thinking, so I quickly pulled him aside. "It's fine, they're already here. Besides, I don't remember anything anyway. It won't bother me." Only then did Leo relent and pull me over to a seat. That evening, the room was loud, but the atmosphere was tense. Chloe's eyes were fixed on Julian the entire time. I watched as she took drinks for him, peeled fruit and fed it to him as if they were the only 2 people in the room. Every gesture was intimate and doting, her affection for him on full display. I watched them quietly. There was a tightness in my chest, but it wasn't pain. It seemed forgetting all those memories really was a blessing in disguise. Leo, however, thought I was upset and quickly gathered a group to play games to distract me. My luck was good, and I won about 10 rounds in a row before finally losing. Everyone was shouting for me to do a dare, but I didn't feel like playing silly games, so I chose truth instead. Instantly, all eyes darted between me, Chloe, and back again. Someone asked excitedly, "All right then, tell us about the most unforgettable love of your life." At that question, Chloe's expression immediately soured. She shot me a look, her eyes like ice. I knew it was a warning. Don't say anything stupid in front of Julian. But since I didn't remember anything, even if I wanted to answer properly, all I could do was offer up a few vague lines to get them off my back. The most unforgettable would have to be my first love, I guess. She was my best friend's sister. I think I fell for her the moment I saw her. I wrote stacks of love letters, filled albums with photos I took of her. Everyone knew I was crazy about her, but she didn't like me back. I said it all with a casual smile, but the room fell completely silent. Julian, who had been watching coolly from the sidelines, seemed to sense something was off. He took Chloe's hand, whose face had darkened. "Chloe, you and Mr. Hayes." Chloe's heart skipped a beat. She gripped his hand tightly and denied it vehemently. "There's nothing between us. It's always been him, all on his own." It was completely one-sided. She said every word with absolute finality, leaving no room for doubt. Then, without another word, she pulled Julian up and walked out, with everyone watching. The looks everyone in the room gave me were filled with pity and sympathy. Leo, who had been quiet until now, couldn't take it anymore and stormed out. I knew what he was about to do and ran after him, catching up just in time to see him and his sister arguing in the parking garage. "Ethan is my best friend. Why did you have to humiliate him in front of everyone like that? He's loved you for years. Can't you show him a little kindness out of respect for his feelings?" Leo demanded. "I've put up with him for 7 years. I've turned him down gently so many times only because of you. Isn't that kind enough? His love is nothing but a constant annoyance to me." Chloe shot back. Leo was so angry he was losing it, his voice cracking as he yelled, "Well, don't worry, he'll never bother you again. Not after you abandoned him on the side of the road, and he got into that accident and ended up with a concussion. I was only giving him a ride home as a favor to you. Why shouldn't I have left him? Even if he got into an accident, and even if we could go back in time 100 times, I would leave him for Julian 100 times over. If he's still mad about it, you can tell him to stay the hell away from me." In the distance, a car door slammed shut. I didn't want them to know I'd overheard their fight and make things even more awkward, so I quickly turned and walked away. When I got home, I looked around my apartment, gathered up every single thing I had collected over the years that had anything to do with Chloe, and threw it all in the trash. Over the weekend, I stayed home and packed up most of my belongings. Then I went to the office and handed my prepared letter of resignation to HR. The HR manager was stunned to see me. "Weren't you in an accident? You're still on medical leave. I heard the design director position just opened up, and Ms. Sullivan was planning to promote you. Why are you suddenly resigning?" According to Leo, after graduation, I had applied to Sullivan Enterprises just so I could see Chloe every day. For 3 years, I'd worked my tail off, all for the chance to get closer to her, to be able to stand by her side legitimately. But now I didn't remember her, and I'd forgotten what it felt like to love her. So, facing the reluctant HR manager, I just smiled. "I want to go home. I'm planning to stay there for good." The manager didn't try to persuade me further and handed me the stamped form. "All right then, I'll just need to get Ms. Sullivan's signature on this, and your resignation will be finalized." On my way back from HR, a colleague from my department stopped me. "Ms. Sullivan just called a design department meeting. I think she's going to announce the new director. It's starting now, you should come with us." I nodded and went with them. On the way, several of my colleagues were smiling and congratulating me. "Ethan, in the 3 years you've been here, you've worked on so many major projects and your designs have won a ton of international awards. It only makes sense that the director position is yours. Yeah, with your track record and how much Ms. Sullivan values you, we'd all be happy to see you as the new director. When they announced the good news, 'You're buying us all dinner tonight.' Okay. Having worked with them for so long, I knew they were being sincere. I wanted to tell them I was leaving, but since Chloe hadn't signed off on it yet, I decided to wait and announce it at dinner. It doesn't matter who the new director is, but I'd definitely like to take everyone out to dinner tonight. I have some news to share then." We all walked and talked, quickly reaching the conference room. I found a seat in the corner. Once everyone was there, Chloe walked in right on time. She scanned the room and got straight to the point. "I'm sure you've all heard the rumors. I've called this meeting today to announce the new director of design. If anyone has anything to say, now is the time." All eyes in the room turned to me. I wanted to stop her from making the announcement before everything was final, so after a moment's hesitation, I stood up, met Chloe's calm, unreadable gaze, and took a deep breath. "Ms. Sullivan, Thank you for the trust you've placed in me over the years, giving me the opportunity to work on so many projects. My colleagues and I have worked hard to deliver, and I hope we've lived up to your expectations. While I don't know who you have in mind for the director position, before you make the official announcement, I would like to voluntarily withdraw my name from consideration. Before I could finish, Chloe cut me off. Regarding the director position, among the 10 designers currently in this department, none have a portfolio as strong as yours. However, you lack seniority. Therefore, I have decided to bring in an outside hire, a new director with extensive experience and qualifications, to fill this important role. As she finished speaking, a wave of shock went through the department. I was frozen in place. A moment later, Chloe's voice filled the room. Everyone, I'd like to introduce you to the new director of design, Julian Chun. The conference room door swung open. Julian walked in with a smile and introduced himself. Hello, everyone. I'm Julian Chun. I have a PhD from the Milan Institute of Design, and I'm a past recipient of the European Young Designer Award. The room was completely silent. People exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions turning awkward. Several of the designers in the room had won the same awards Julian mentioned, and he had zero professional experience. To have him drop into the director role straight out of school was hard for anyone to swallow. A few of the senior designers, who had been with the company for nearly 5 years, finally spoke up. Ms. Sullivan, we all agree that Mr. Chun lacks professional experience. He needs a couple more years to develop before he's ready for a director role. In our opinion, Ethan is far more qualified for the position. Once one person had spoken, the rest of the department quickly nodded in agreement. Julian's eyes immediately welled up with tears, and he looked at Chloe, hurt. Seeing his teary eyes, a flicker of pain crossed Chloe's face. Her gaze then shot to me, sharp and cold. Julian is a top graduate from a prestigious university with countless international awards to his name. Neither his vision nor his ability can be compared to Ethan's. Yes, Ethan has handled many projects, but he was only able to achieve those results because of the solid foundation this department provided. If I gave Julian the same resources, he could deliver the same results, if not better. The position of design director belongs to Julian. The decision is final. Being publicly humiliated like that made my face go pale, even though I no longer had any feelings for her. After her declaration, Chloe ended the meeting and quickly walked out with Julian. The HR manager, who had been waiting outside, saw her and immediately handed over my resignation form. Ms. Sullivan, I have a resignation notice here that requires your signature. Chloe's eyes were cold. Without even glancing at the paper, she signed her name. After watching her lead Julian away, my colleagues from the design department all rushed over to comfort me. But I felt perfectly calm. I smiled, clutching the signed form in my hand. It really doesn't matter if I got the director job because I was already planning to quit. Ms. Sullivan just signed my resignation form. Today is my last day. I wish you all the best. Maybe we'll cross paths again someday. Everyone was shocked to hear I was leaving and didn't want me to go. They even offered to go back to Chloe and fight for the director position on my behalf. But I just smiled, shook my head, and thanked them. Then I went back to my desk and started packing up my things. After work, I took my colleagues out for dinner and said my goodbyes in a somber atmosphere. When I got home, I called a real estate agent and listed my apartment for the lowest possible price. It sold the very next day. I finished the paperwork and arranged with the new owner to be moved out in 2 days. After getting all that sorted, I got a call from Leo. Ethan, tomorrow's my birthday. You haven't been so busy you forgot, have you? I've been waiting for my present, you know? How could I forget your birthday? I got your gift a while ago. I'll make sure you get it tomorrow. I had his gift ready, and I also planned on telling him that I was leaving town. In past years, I would always show up early to his birthday parties, just for the chance to spend a little more time with Chloe. This time, I waited until the party was already half over before I caught a cab. As usual, the party was at the Sullivans' family home. I'd been there countless times and knew the place like the back of my hand. I slipped in through a back entrance. In the main hall, they were just about to blow out the candles. Leo was in the center of a crowd, beaming with happiness. Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan stood smiling to his left, while Chloe and Julian stood to his right. They looked perfectly happy, like one big family. I watched from afar and overheard some of the household staff whispering. Ms. Chloe and Mr. Chun were broken up for so many years. I thought it was impossible, but to think they'd find their way back to each other. It's so romantic. I know, right? The young master's friend chased her for so many years and never made a dent. It just shows how much she loves Mr. Chun, loves him down to her bones. Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan have been pressuring her to get married for years, and she always put it off. Bringing him home like this must be her way of making a statement. I bet a wedding is just around the corner. I had already forgotten my past with Chloe and had decided to let her go completely. Whoever she loved, whoever she married, it had nothing to do with me anymore. So hearing all this, I felt nothing at all. I silently sang along to the birthday song. When I looked up again, my eyes met Chloe's. She frowned when she saw me, then leaned over and whispered something to Leo. He looked over in my direction and pushed his way out of the crowd. I gave him a quick hug, handed him his gift, and wished him a happy birthday with a smile. Leo had been waiting for me all night and tried to pull me over for cake, but I shook my head. It's too crowded and loud over there. I'll pass. You go on. I'll wait for you in your room. There's something I need to talk to you about later. Leo, probably worried I'd be upset seeing Chloe, agreed. I slipped away from the party and made my way up to Leo's room on the 3rd floor, a path I knew well. I sat on his couch for about half an hour and started to feel drowsy, so I closed my eyes for a quick nap. Vaguely, I heard the door open and assumed it was Leo, but when I opened my eyes, I saw Julian. His face was grim, his eyes burning into me, and his tone was anything but friendly. Didn't you say you'd given up? Why do you keep showing up in front of Chloe? I'm telling you, I'm the only one in her heart. No matter what pathetic stunts you pull to get her attention, she will never like you. You can't compete with me. I never expected him to confront me like this. It took me a few seconds to process it before I could explain. I'm just here to give Leo his birthday present. I'm leaving right after. At my words, the suspicion in Julian's eyes only grew, now mixed with a layer of disgust. For years, you've been shamelessly clinging to Chloe's side with no self-respect. The only reason you've gotten away with it is because Leo is her brother, isn't it? Chloe really has the worst luck, having a brother who can't tell who his family is and always sides with outsiders. Julian could say whatever nasty things he wanted about me. I wouldn't care. But the moment he started insulting Leo, my expression turned to ice. Does Chloe know you talk about her own brother, her own flesh and blood, like that behind her back? In response to my question, Julian just sneered. Chloe adores me unconditionally, so what if I insult him? Besides, you and Leo are both shameless, pathetic losers. Am I wrong? You're getting angry. Did I strike a nerve? 7 years ago, you broke up with her out of the blue and left the country, and it nearly killed her. Leo, her brother, felt terrible for her, but he never said a single bad word about you. Now you want to crawl back and marry her, but you're insulting her brother behind her back. Who do you think is the really disgusting, despicable one here? Julian clearly didn't expect me to talk back to him like that. He flew into a rage and slapped me across the face. I didn't hesitate for a second and slapped him right back. Julian clutched his stinging cheek, tears of rage in his eyes, and lunged at me. We started grappling, and I grabbed a handful of his hair, fighting back with everything I had. In the struggle, we knocked over a scented candle on the nightstand. The flame caught the bedsheets, then spread to the carpet, and in moments the room was on fire. Thick smoke filled the air. By the time we realized what was happening, the entire room was an inferno. I struggled toward the door, but Julian shoved me straight into the flames. The searing heat licked at my skin, and an agony so intense it made my whole body shake shot through me. As I tried to beat out the flames on my clothes, the bedroom door was thrown open. Chloe rushed in, stopping only a few feet away from me. But her eyes barely registered me for a second before they locked onto Julian. She ran to him and dragged him out of the room. The smoke filled my lungs, making it harder and harder to breathe. I lifted my hands, already red and blistering from the heat, and grabbed onto Chloe's leg. But she just glanced down at me, yanked her leg free with a sharp tug, and walked away. Watching her figure disappear into the smoke, I finally lost consciousness. I never thought I'd survive. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Leo, his eyes red from crying. Ethan, thank God you're okay. If anything had happened, I would have blamed myself forever. Do your burns hurt? Don't worry, I've got the best doctors looking after you. They'll make sure you don't have any scars. It's just a minor injury, I'm fine. Leo, don't feel guilty, and don't worry. A wave of unbearable, burning pain shot through my hands, but I gritted my teeth and patted his shoulder. Actually, there was something I meant to tell you yesterday. It's a bit late now, so don't be mad when you hear it. I've decided to go back to Los Angeles this afternoon. There's that childhood engagement pact, and my family is pushing for the wedding. I've already bought my ticket. Will you see me off? Leo was completely blindsided by my sudden departure. The tears he'd just managed to stop started streaming down his face again. What? Why are you leaving all of a sudden? And getting married? Does that mean you're never coming back? Man, who am I going to hang out with? I sighed and spent a long time comforting him before he finally calmed down. We said our reluctant goodbyes, and then Leo unwillingly went to take care of my discharge paperwork. I had just finished changing, gritting my teeth against the pain, when Chloe stormed into the room, her face dark and her eyes menacing. You hit Julian, and then you set a fire to try and kill him, didn't you? Seeing her again, I felt nothing. My voice was just as cold as hers. Is that what he told you? And you just believed him? Without even asking for proof? Yes, no matter what Julian says, I will believe him unconditionally. I don't need any evidence. Chloe didn't give me a chance to say another word, making it clear she wouldn't listen. Looking at her icy stare, I knew it was pointless to say anything else. She wouldn't believe me. I stopped trying to explain and just gave a humorless smile. So, what are you here for? To make you apologize to Julian, of course. Without another word, she grabbed my injured hand and tried to drag me out of the room. Her grip was so tight my burns started to bleed again. The pain was so intense it brought tears to my eyes, but I fought them back, struggling with all my might to pull away from her. Just then, Leo returned. He saw what was happening and immediately stepped between us, shielding me. Chloe glared at both of us, her voice leaving no room for debate. Get out of the way. He is going to apologize to Julian today. I'm not moving. I know Ethan didn't do anything wrong. You're just taking Julian's side. But there's a security camera in my room. We can see exactly what happened yesterday. If you want to force Ethan to apologize, you'll have to do it after we watch the footage. Leo shot back, his voice hoarse, not giving an inch. Chloe was so furious a vein throbbed in her forehead. She was about to argue when a message from Julian popped up on her phone. She glanced at the screen, swallowed her anger, and stormed out, throwing one last threat over her shoulder. Fine, we'll watch the footage tonight. When the proof is right there, let's see what you have to say. We watched her slam the door, and the room fell silent again. Leo tended to my burns, apologizing over and over. I just shook my head and wiped a tear from his eye. You don't have to be sorry. We're not the ones who did anything wrong. I'm leaving soon. You have to take care of yourself. Leo nodded hard. He helped me leave the hospital, went with me to get my luggage, and then drove me straight to the airport. The final boarding call for my flight to Los Angeles was already being announced. I gave him one last hug, then turned and walked through the gate without looking back. Once I was on the plane, I deleted every trace of Chloe from my contacts. Just then, a final iMessage from Leo came through. Ethan, be happy when you get home, and don't worry. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this tonight and clear your name. I smiled as my phone screen went dark and turned to look at the clouds outside the window. For me, the truth, justice, none of it mattered anymore. After all, Chloe, and all the pain that came with her, had already been erased from my memory. I was leaving it all behind, forever and completely. I stood at the front door, exhausted, dragging my suitcase behind me. I tucked the edge of the bandage on my burned hand further up my sleeve, making sure it wasn't visible, before finally raising my hand to knock. Who is it? My mother's voice called from inside. My mother opened the door, her eyes widening in surprise when she saw me. Ethan, you really came back? I thought you were just saying that. She turned and yelled back into the house. Honey, Ethan's home. What? He's really here. My father jumped up from the couch and came to the door. He carried my suitcase inside while my mother linked her arm through mine and led me in. Why did you really come back? What about Chloe? Before my mother could finish, I cut her off. Mom, I was in a car accident. I have amnesia. I don't remember anything about her. Hearing I'd been in an accident, my mother immediately wanted to take me for a checkup. Afraid she'd see the burns on my hand, I quickly stopped her. I'm fine, really, you don't need to worry. I just made a mistake, loving someone I shouldn't have and wasting years chasing her. The accident and the amnesia are a clean slate. Think of it as a lesson learned the hard way. So what about that engagement pact you mentioned? I know I refused before, and I'm sorry if I hurt the family's feelings. But I'm back now, so I'd like to meet her. At that, my parents both burst out laughing and pulled me into a loving hug. What engagement pact? Honey, we only made that up because we saw how you were throwing your life away on your friend's sister, and it was going nowhere. There's no pact. You're free to be with whoever you want. We would never force you, but not her. All those years of you giving everything and her giving nothing in return, that kind of love is just exhausting. Hearing their kind words, my eyes welled up, and I hugged them both tightly. I know, Mom, Dad, Maybe this amnesia is the second chance I needed. I'll never fall for her again. I spent the next couple of blissful days at home, ready to start my new life. I sent out a few resumes and quickly got an interview offer from the Rhodes Corporation in Los Angeles. Mom, I've got an interview this afternoon. I'm heading out. I called toward the kitchen as I put on my shoes. My mother poked her head out. Be safe. Drive carefully, she said warmly. I was standing outside the Rhodes Corporation building. Since I was early, I decided to grab a coffee first. Order for number 627. I walked up to the counter to get my coffee, but as I reached for it, my hand brushed against a woman's. Sorry, I said, pulling my hand back quickly. I checked the number on my receipt and saw it was 627. Confused, I looked up at the woman, just as she was looking at me. She held up her coffee and explained, the sticker says 626. I think they just called the wrong number. Just then, a barista brought over another coffee. Sorry about that, sir. I called the wrong number. Here's your coffee. I took the coffee with a smile and a wave. No problem. Hi, I'm Ava Rhodes, the woman said, stopping me. She held out her hand. I work in this building too. Maybe we'll be colleagues soon. Hearing that, I shook her hand. Hi, I'm Ethan Hayes. Ava seemed to find my name familiar, but she didn't press it. Well, I hope your interview goes well. See you around. Neither of us expected to see each other again so soon. When I walked into the interview room holding my portfolio, I was so surprised to see Ava sitting right in the middle of the panel that I almost forgot to introduce myself. Ava was looking down at her phone, but when the candidate didn't say anything for a moment, she looked up and saw it was me. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ethan Hayes. The interview went well and we settled on a start date right away. As I was leaving, Ava called out to me. What a coincidence. I'm a manager here at Rhodes Corp. I oversee the design department. Since we're going to be colleagues, and it's almost dinner time, how about I buy you a meal? Ava was a little too forward for my taste, and it made me uncomfortable. I declined. I wouldn't want to impose, Ms. Rhodes. I have plans tonight. Hearing I had plans, she quickly asked, with your girlfriend? I wasn't sure what she was getting at, but I answered politely, no. Ava seemed visibly relieved at my answer. Good. As long as it's not a girlfriend. Starting the new job went smoothly. I was good at my work and easy to get along with, so I fit into the design department at Rhodes Corp quickly. Still, I sighed as I toyed with the flowers on my desk, feeling a little troubled. My colleague in the next cubicle heard me sigh and leaned over. Hey, handsome, another delivery from a secret admirer? If I had someone sending me flowers every day, I certainly wouldn't be sighing about it. I pulled 2 roses from the vase and handed them to her. Here's hoping you find someone soon, too. My problem wasn't having a suitor. It was that the suitor was Ava, my boss. That extra layer of complication worried me. For one thing, after everything with Chloe, I had no interest in dating. For another, I was afraid that if people found out she was pursuing me, it would cause gossip about our professional relationship. Ethan, would you like to get dinner tonight? Another iMessage from Ava. I had always turned her down before, but this time, I deleted the polite refusal I had typed and instead wrote back, okay. Ava replied instantly. I could feel her excitement through the screen. I'll make a reservation. How does Italian sound? Sounds good. I had only agreed to Ava's invitation because I wanted to take the opportunity to clear the air between us. When I got to the restaurant, she was already there. The waiter showed me to the table, and Ava immediately handed me a bouquet. I saw you giving away the roses today. Does that mean you don't like them? I lowered my head and sniffed the beautifully arranged jasmine. No, I love flowers. And the person who sends them? Her question caught me off guard. Took me a long moment to answer. Ava, I don't think this can work. Ethan, I'm serious about you. I couldn't give Ava an answer, so I just stayed silent. As a suitor, she was perfect. She sent fresh flowers every day, along with little gifts and notes. And even though she was pursuing me, she was always professional at the office, never crossing a line. She knew when to advance and when to retreat. We sat in silence, the only sound the soft melody of a violin playing somewhere in the restaurant. Let's eat first, Ava finally said, breaking the silence. I was feeling agitated and barely touched my food, but I drank quite a bit of wine and was starting to feel buzzed. Ava gently took my glass from me. Don't drink any more, she murmured. You're going to get drunk. Maybe it was the alcohol, but the pain I'd been suppressing came pouring out. I'm supposed to have forgotten her, so why does my heart still ache? What did she do to you? Ava asked, confused about who I was talking about. I was tipsy now and I started mumbling. It was my fault for chasing her for so long, I know that, but after I lost my memory, I was ready to let go. Why wouldn't she listen to me? Why did she push me into the water? Why did she just believe his side of the story and assume it was all my fault? As I spoke, I pulled up my sleeve, revealing the healed but still ugly burned scar on my arm. Ava stared at the scar, her pupils dilating. Her fingers trembled as she reached out and gently touched it. From my fragmented words, she was able to piece together the gist of it. I had been involved with a terrible woman who had broken my heart, which was why I kept rejecting her. Her eyes filled with pain for me. She leaned down and pressed her lips to the scar. Ethan, I'm going to make you forget her completely. I'll help you move on and accept me. Director Chun, here are the designs for the new product line the company is launching. If you could look them over, and if everything is okay, I'll submit them for final approval. Julian took the portfolio from the young designer, glanced at it dismissively, and tossed it aside. You expect the CEO to sign off on this garbage? Faced with his outburst, the designer was flustered. But this was the final design that Mr. Hayes and the team decided on. That was the worst thing she could have said. It was like pouring gasoline on a fire. Julian swept the entire portfolio off his desk, sending papers scattering across the floor. Go tell Ms. Sullivan that Ethan's design is unacceptable. I'll be leading the department in a complete redesign. The designer looked like she wanted to protest, but Julian just screamed at her. Didn't you hear me? Get out. Tears streamed down her face as she scrambled to pick up the scattered papers and fled from his office. Mia, what did Director Chin say? Her colleagues asked. He said it's no good. He's going to make us redesign the whole thing. Seeing Mia crying, the others rushed to comfort her. Everyone was furious. Julian had only been director for a few days, and every time someone went in to report to him, they got yelled at. He rejected every single one of their previous designs without giving any reason. The department was already unhappy about him being hired, and his management style was making everyone miserable. I'm done, one of the senior designers declared, slamming his company ID down on his desk. Seeing one person snap, several other senior designers followed suit. With my experience, I can get a job anywhere. Why should I stay here and put up with his tantrums? He has no talent, just a massive ego. One by one, the designers who had been tormented by Julian went to HR and submitted their resignations. HR, suddenly faced with a mass exodus from the design department, didn't know what to do and reported the situation directly to Chloe. What have you done to the design department now? Chloe demanded, angrily shoving the stack of resignation letters at Julian. Julian, who had never been spoken to so harshly by Chloe, felt his eyes well up. I just thought their old designs weren't good enough. I wanted them to do better. I never thought they'd threaten to quit over it. Chloe had always turned a blind eye to Julian's behavior at the company, as long as he didn't go too far. But this was too far. 22 people from the design department had quit. On top of that, production on the new Sullivan Enterprises jewelry line had plummeted. Facing pressure from the board, Chloe had no choice but to step in. Why don't you go home and take a break for a while? I'll appoint a new director to manage the department. When you're feeling better, you can co-manage it with them. Chloe thought this was a generous compromise, but Julian was so insulted he stormed out and slammed the door. Chloe pinched the bridge of her nose, frustrated. Thinking about the chaos in the design department made her think back to when I was there. There had never been a mass resignation like this back then. In fact, sales of the products we designed had been excellent. She rubbed her temples, annoyed. Why was she suddenly thinking about Ethan? Remembering the sight of Julian's tear-streaked face, Chloe picked out a gift for him and sent him an iMessage. Julian, I was too harsh today. I bought you something. Can we get dinner tonight? Julian saw her message and smiled, satisfied. He deliberately waited a few minutes before replying. Fine. Since you put it that way, I suppose I can forgive you. Chloe had dinner with Julian that night, and they went for a walk along the river afterward. Julian put his arm around her waist. You seem stressed lately. How about I take you to the amusement park tomorrow? Chloe had no real interest in amusement parks. She'd only been a couple of times when Leo had dragged her there. She was about to say no to Julian, but then an image of me on a roller coaster flashed through her mind. On impulse, she nodded, agreeing to go. Chloe. Julian had to call her name twice before she snapped out of her thoughts. What is it? Julian sounded annoyed. What's wrong with you today? You keep zoning out. Chloe couldn't answer him, because this was the same amusement park she had come to with me. For some reason, seeing all the familiar sights kept making her think of me. When Chloe didn't answer, Julian got even more upset. She quickly tried to placate him. I'm sorry. You wanted to ride the roller coaster, right? I'll go with you. Julian immediately brightened up at the thought of Chloe going on the roller coaster with him, since she usually refused to ride anything she considered dangerous. The roller coaster had an on-ride camera, and Julian paid extra to get a few more shots. Chloe was on edge the entire ride, her body tense. As soon as it was over, Julian dragged her over to the photo booth to pick out their pictures. On the wall covered with photos of other parkgoers, Chloe saw a picture of herself and me. It must have been from college, when the three of us, me, her, and Leo, had come here together. Leo must have taken it with a Polaroid. It was obvious who had put it up on the wall. Chloe, the attendant said that's the wall for couples photos. We should put ours up there too. Chloe tried to stop him, but he was already heading over there, so she hurried after him. She was too late. Julian had already seen the photo. He ripped the picture of me and Chloe off the wall and demanded, "So that's why you've been distracted all day? You were thinking about Ethan?" Chloe's lips parted as if to explain, but no words came out. Her silence was as good as a confession. Furious, Julian tore the photo into tiny pieces, threw them in a nearby trash can, and stormed off. The date ended on a sour note. Chloe bent down and picked up a piece of the torn photo from the ground. There was writing on the back. She recognized my handwriting. All that was left on the scrap were the words, "Ethan loves Sichel." Chloe stared at the fragment, lost in thought. After a long moment, she slipped it into her pocket. When Julian got home, he smashed everything in his living room to vent his frustration. He checked his phone, expecting to see an apology from Chloe, but there was nothing. In a fit of rage, he hurled his phone against the wall. For the next few days, Chloe didn't call or text Julian to apologize. Faced with her silence, Julian, though still angry, knew he had to be the one to make the first move. "Chloe, I was too impulsive the other day," Julian said, coming to her office and tugging on her sleeve apologetically. Since Chloe knew she was also in the wrong, she couldn't stay mad at him for apologizing first. "You can head down and get to work." Her words were the olive branch he needed. Julian dropped the act. "Thanks, Chloe. Can we agree not to fight anymore?" Chloe gave a non-committal reply. When Julian returned to the design department, the new director was already settled in the office next to his. Remembering Chloe's criticism, Julian forced a smile and tried to greet the other designers. They all ignored him. Julian awkwardly lowered his hand, the fake smile vanishing from his face. As he walked back to his office, he could hear them whispering about him. Between that and what happened at the amusement park, he blamed me for everything. The more Julian thought about it, the angrier he became. He swept everything off his desk. The sound of papers hitting the floor made everyone outside turn and look toward his office. After his outburst, Julian glared at the onlookers, stood up, and slammed his door shut. "So, who's going to talk to Director Chun about the design competition?" Everyone shook their heads. No one wanted to be the one to set him off. The new co-director had no choice but to do it himself. He carefully stepped around the papers on the floor and placed the competition brief on Julian's desk. "The company is entering a design competition this year. These are the guidelines. The CEO wants you to lead the department in creating our submission." Only when he heard it was an order from Chloe did Julian bother to pick it up and look at it. He glanced at the co-director. "You can go now." Because of the competition, Julian was uncharacteristically quiet for the next 2 days, holed up in his office working on a design. He would pick up his pen, sketch for a moment, then rip the page out, crumple it up, and toss it aside. Julian wasn't a particularly talented designer. His college awards meant nothing in a department as skilled as the one at Sullivan Enterprises. If he had let the rest of the team help him, it would have been fine. But Julian was determined to prove he was better than me, so he refused to let anyone else touch the project. Chloe had gone against everyone's advice to give him the director position. They all thought he was an unqualified Nepo hire. He was going to show them all that he was better than me. Just when Julian was about to give up, he found a beautifully rendered design sketch in Chloe's office. "Chloe, whose design is this?" Chloe took it and realized it was something I had given her years ago. I had excitedly shown her the design, saying, "Chloe, this is a ring I designed. I'm calling it Spring. The inspiration for it comes from..." "That's enough. Can you please not bother me while I'm working?" she had said, impatiently tossing the sketch aside. The smile had frozen on my face. I had silently placed the sketch back on her desk and left her office. Now, looking at the sketch, Chloe seemed lost in the memory. Took her a moment to answer Julian. "It's Ethan's." A flash of jealousy crossed Julian's face when he heard the design was mine, but he quickly hid it, casually placing the sketch back down. Was this design ever produced? Chloe wasn't sure why he was asking, but she answered truthfully. No. She paused for a moment before adding, he designed it for me. A few days later, Julian submitted his design for the competition to Chloe. Looking at the sketch of the ring, she felt a sense of familiarity. It looked a lot like my design. She hesitated for a moment, but ultimately said nothing. The man who had pestered her for years was finally out of her life, something she had always wanted. And yet, lately, she found herself thinking about me more and more. The feeling was strange, unsettling. So even though she could see the similarities between Julian's design and my old sketch, she kept quiet. You've worked hard. After the competition is over, I'll take you on a vacation. Julian looked up, pleasantly surprised. His relationship with Chloe had stalled. Even though they were together, he could feel that she still thought about me, that her feelings for me weren't entirely negative. It made him feel insecure. He had to find a way to solidify their relationship, to pull her closer. A vacation, he thought, was the perfect opportunity. Julian hugged Chloe and leaned in to kiss her, but she gently pushed him away. We're at work. Chloe picked up another file from her desk. If there's nothing else, you can go, she said coolly. Ethan, I'd like you to take the lead on this design competition. Are you up for it? I stood up. Ava, I've only been with the company for a short time. This should probably go to one of the more senior designers. We've already discussed it as a team. Ethan, your talent is undeniable. The other people in the room nodded in agreement. Seeing that I had everyone's support, I stopped protesting and accepted the assignment. I'll do my best. I won't let you down. After the morning meeting, Ava asked me to stay behind. Ms. Rhodes, did you need something? Ava frowned slightly at the formal title. Ethan, we're friends. You don't have to be so formal. Ever since that night I got drunk and she took me home, I hadn't been as resistant to her advances. Even my parents were big fans of hers, telling me over and over that Ava seems like a wonderful girl, but I still wasn't ready for a relationship, so we just remained friends. I prefer to keep things professional at the office. If there's nothing else, Ms. Rhodes, I'll get back to work. Ava stopped me. Sullivan Enterprises is also participating in this competition. I had someone look into it. Julian Chun is their lead designer for this project. I knew what she was implying. I nodded. I understand. The theme of the competition was the 4 seasons. My mind immediately went to the spring ring I had designed years ago. I decided to create a collection based on that original concept. A few days later, I submitted my designs to Ava. She looked through them, her eyes lighting up. Ethan, these are incredible, especially spring. The competition results should be announced in a week or 2. I want you to come with me to the awards ceremony. I felt a little embarrassed by her praise. On the day the competition results were to be announced, Ava and I flew to New York City for the event. Ava noticed my mood had soured since we landed. Chloe Sullivan will be here today, she said gently. It's fine. She and I have nothing to do with each other anymore, I said, cutting her off. I had lost my memories of her, of the 7 years I spent chasing her, of all the pain she caused me then. But I remembered everything she had done to me since my accident, every single detail. I wanted nothing more to do with Chloe Sullivan. When we got to the venue, I followed Ava inside. The first thing I saw was Julian, with Chloe on his arm. They saw me at the same time. Julian walked over to us, his arm still around Chloe. Ethan, what a coincidence. Seeing his arrogant smirk, I had no desire to engage with him. I started to lead Ava away. My avoidance only seemed to fuel his arrogance. He looked at Ava standing beside me. Ethan, don't tell me this is your new girlfriend. Chloe was staring at Ava and me, her expression sour. I wasn't chasing her anymore. This was what she wanted. And yet, when Julian asked that question, a part of her was terrified I would say yes. When I didn't answer right away, Julian's smirk widened. Don't tell me you're still hung up on my girlfriend. I was about to fire back, but Ava stepped in front of me. Ethan is my boyfriend, so please show some respect. With that, Ava pulled me away. It wasn't until we were in our seats that she apologized. I'm sorry, Ethan. He was just being such a jerk. I shook my head and smiled. Don't be sorry. Thank you for sticking up for me. The awards ceremony began. Everyone sat waiting for the host on stage to announce the winner. I was a little nervous myself. Just as the host was opening the envelope to read the result, someone rushed onto the stage and whispered something in his ear. Ladies and gentlemen, it has come to our attention that there may have been an incident of plagiarism in this competition. To ensure fairness, the judges will now review the matter before we announce a winner. A murmur went through the crowd at the mention of plagiarism. It was a serious accusation. An artist's career could be ruined by it. The organizers had intended to handle the matter privately, but the audience demanded to see the evidence, so they displayed the two competing designs on the large screen behind the stage. I looked up at the screen and saw my design next to Julian's. I stared at Julian and Chloe in disbelief. Julian met my gaze with a triumphant smirk. Ava quickly turned to me. "Ethan, did you show your designs to anyone?" She trusted me completely. She knew I would never plagiarize. The only explanation was that my design had been stolen. I was about to stand up and defend myself when Julian shot to his feet and pointed at me. "Ethan Hayes plagiarized my design. You're the one who copied me." I was about to pull out my own original sketches when Julian announced, "I have the original concept sketches for this design right here." Julian handed his sketches to an event organizer, who took them to the judges. I had no choice but to submit my own sketches as well. "This is my design," I said firmly. "I have never plagiarized anyone." Ava put a hand on my shoulder. "It's okay," she whispered. "The judges will sort this out. I believe you." Everyone waited for the judge's decision. Finally, the host read from the card they handed him. "After careful review, the judges have determined that the initial concept sketches provided by Mr. Julian Chun predate those provided by Mr. Ethan Hayes." His words were a death sentence. It meant I was the plagiarist. Couldn't believe it. I rushed up to the judge's table and grabbed both sets of sketches. The moment I saw the ones Julian had submitted, I knew they were mine. I must have left them behind at Sullivan Enterprises when I quit. The room erupted in whispers, all of them accusing me. I looked desperately at Chloe. She was the only one who could clear my name, the only one who could confirm that the sketches were mine. Chloe met my pleading gaze, but she said nothing. She didn't defend me. "Chloe, did you give my sketches to Julian?" I couldn't control myself any longer. I shoved the sketches in her face, my voice filled with disbelief. A flicker of pain crossed Chloe's face. She opened her mouth to speak, but Julian grabbed her arm. The judges, and the entire room, were waiting for her answer. "The design is Julian's." Her words extinguished the last flicker of hope I had. I felt all the strength drain out of me, and I nearly collapsed. Ava rushed to my side and held me up. Julian watched me, a look of pure triumph on his face. After the whole fiasco was over, he walked over to Ava and me and sneered, "Rhodes Corporation caught in plagiarism scandal. How does that sound for a headline?" Chloe, standing beside him, heard his taunt and did nothing, just watched with cold indifference. Ava didn't want to argue with Julian. Instead, she turned to Chloe. "I never thought the CEO of Sullivan Enterprises would help a plagiarist lie and cheat his way to the top." Chloe just gave me a dismissive glance. "Is there a problem with defending my boyfriend?" Seeing her smug expression, Ava looked like she was about to lunge at her, but I held her back. I thought she was worried about how this would affect the company's stock price. "I'll resign," I said quickly. "I'll take full responsibility. It won't affect the company." Ava quickly corrected me. "I don't care about the company's stock price. I'm angry for you." Chloe had no interest in listening to Ava's defense of me. She started to leave with Julian, but I stopped her. "Chloe, let's just say the years I spent chasing you were my mistake. Pushing me in the fountain, leaving me in that fire, and this plagiarism scandal today will call that my punishment. We're even now." Chloe paused in her tracks. After a long moment, she said one word, "Fine." Even though Ava believed me and was willing to risk the company's reputation to defend me, I didn't want to put her in that position. I resigned and took full responsibility for the plagiarism scandal. As I was packing up my desk, my former colleagues came to say goodbye. They all believed me about the plagiarism. They knew I was talented enough that I would never need to steal someone else's work. Ava came back from a board meeting and saw me packing. She rushed over to stop me. "I'll handle the board. You're the victim here. We can't let you take the fall for this. If you get a reputation for plagiarism, your career will be over." I was grateful and deeply touched by her loyalty, but I didn't want to drag her down with me. Even though she was a Rhodes, the board had been giving her hell over this, and she'd been pulling all-nighters for days trying to manage the fallout. "Ava, thank you. I've saved up a little money over the years. I think I'm just going to take some time off." Ava tried to convince me to stay, but I wouldn't hear it. "All right, take some time off. Once this all blows over, I'll bring you back." Seeing how exhausted I looked, she agreed that a break might be good for me. Ava was worried I would just sit at home and mope, so she started coming over every few days, dragging me out of the house to get my mind off things. I couldn't say no to her, and my parents were worried about me being cooped up all day, so I always went along. Over time, I started to soften toward her. Today was no exception. Ava had booked a table at a restaurant in a high-rise overlooking the river. The view was incredible. As I ate, I looked out at the water, and I felt my mood lifting. I was just about to comment on how empty the restaurant was when I saw Ava holding a bouquet of flowers and a small jewelry box. "Ethan, I'm in love with you," she said, holding them out to me. "Will you be with me?" As she spoke, she opened the box to reveal a ruby bracelet. "I designed it for you. Ethan, please don't say no." The truth was, over the past few weeks, I had grown to care for Ava. Besides, my amnesia felt like a gift, a chance to let go of a past that wasn't mine and start over. So when she confessed her feelings, I took the flowers from her and said, yes. Ava was so surprised that I'd said yes. She just stood there, stunned. I was the one who broke the silence. "Aren't you going to put the bracelet on me?" Ava fumbled with the box, then carefully fastened the bracelet around my wrist. When she was done, her hand trembling, she leaned down and kissed the burn scar on my forearm. "I, Ava Rhodes, swear that I will love you forever, Ethan Hayes." When I got home, my head was still spinning. I looked down at the bracelet on my wrist, and I could still feel the ghost of her trembling kiss on my skin. Even though Chloe had lied for Julian about the plagiarism, she had been cold and distant with him ever since they got back. Julian seethed. She must still be hung up on Ethan. He'd already been run out of town like a stray dog, but he was still haunting their relationship. With that thought, Julian picked up his phone and sent Chloe an iMessage. "Chloe, I think I'm sick. Can you come over?" He was, after all, her first love. So when she got his message, Chloe went to his apartment. When she arrived, she found Julian lounging on the couch in his pajamas, looking perfectly healthy. Chloe immediately understood what was going on and was not pleased. She turned to leave, but Julian grabbed her hand. "I'm sorry, Chloe. You've just been so distant lately. I was afraid you were going to leave me, so I lied about being sick." Hearing him say that, most of her annoyance faded. Julian pressed his advantage. "Stay and have dinner with me, please." Chloe didn't refuse. She sat down at the dining table. Julian poured 2 glasses of red wine from a decanter and handed one to her. She took it, but after only a couple of sips, she started to feel strange. A wave of heat washed over her, and she fumbled with the top button of her blouse. Seeing her movement, Julian pulled her onto his lap and reached for the buttons of her shirt. In that moment, Chloe understood. This was a setup. Fighting against the feelings spreading through her body, Chloe shoved Julian off of her, sending him tumbling to the floor. He looked up at her, stunned. She stumbled toward the door, but he caught her from behind, wrapping his arms around her. "Chloe, don't go," he begged. Chloe spun around and slammed him against the wall. "All these years, I thought you were sweet and kind. Even when you acted out, I told myself it was just because you cared about me. But to drug me? I never thought you were this kind of person." Having been pushed away by her again and again, and now physically assaulted, Julian finally snapped. "The only reason you won't sleep with me is because you're still thinking about Ethan, isn't it? What does Ethan have to do with this?" Julian let out a wild, crazed laugh. "Chloe, you always said you hated Ethan, that he was just a pest who wouldn't leave you alone. But now I see the truth. You enjoyed it, didn't you? You enjoyed being chased by him. You cared about him all along." Chloe stared at his twisted expression. "You need to calm down," she said sharply. She pushed him away and walked out. When Chloe got home, she took a cold shower and lay down on her bed. Julian's words echoed in her mind. "You enjoyed being chased by him. You cared about him all along." She whispered the words to herself a few times, then took out the torn piece of photo she'd picked up at the amusement park. She ran her thumb over the small scrap, her mind flooded with memories of the past 7 years, of me following her, trying to win her over. It was only then that she could admit to herself that Julian was right. She had, without even realizing it, grown used to having me around. The next day, Chloe went to find Leo. "That security footage from your room you wanted me to see, do you still have it?" The sudden question caught Leo off guard. "What footage?" "The video from the night of the fire, with Julian and Ethan." Leo looked at her with a scornful expression. "Didn't you say you believed Julian? You promised me you'd watch it that night, but one phone call from him and you were back on his side. Why are you asking for it now? Having regrets? Want to try and win Ethan back?" Chloe had no response to his mockery. Seeing her silence, Leo continued. "Ethan messaged me a few days ago. He told me he has a girlfriend now. Her name is Ava Rhodes, I think." "What girlfriend?" Chloe's voice was so sharp it made Leo jump. It took him a second to answer. He's with Ava Rhodes. Chloe refused to believe it, but Leo didn't look like he was lying. Impossible, she muttered, dazed. He must just be using her to get to me. Seeing his sister's devastated expression, Leo, though feeling a sense of vindication for me, couldn't help but feel sorry for her. He sighed and handed her a folder with all the evidence he'd gathered. Think about it, Chloe. If you go to him now, maybe it's not too late, he said, his voice laced with resignation. Chloe locked herself in her room and went through everything. It was only then that she realized how terribly wrong she had been, how much I had suffered because of her blind faith in Julian. She was filled with regret. Leo was right, she thought. Maybe it wasn't too late to win me back. The thought spurred her into action. She immediately called her assistant and told her to find out where I was. Meanwhile, Ava got a tip that Chloe was looking for me. Ethan, she said to me later that day, my assistant told me Chloe Sullivan is trying to find you. What do you want to do? She left the decision entirely up to me. I was confused at first, then disgusted. Why is she looking for me all of a sudden? I thought she and Julian were madly in love. I heard they had a big fight, Ava said, putting her arms around me. I scowled, annoyed. So she breaks up with Julian and comes running back to me? What am I, her convenient backup plan? I couldn't believe I had been so blind, to waste 7 years on a woman like that. Ava knew I had amnesia, but the thought of Chloe coming back into my life still worried her. She was afraid my memory would suddenly return, and I would go back to her. I could see the worry in her eyes and reassured her. Don't worry, I see her for who she really is now. No matter what she does, I will never get back together with her. My words seemed to put her at ease. In that case, she said, why don't we go on a trip for a while? Not wanting to risk running into Chloe, I agreed. When Chloe finally arrived at my parents' house, she found herself feeling nervous. She rehearsed what she was going to say a few times before finally knocking on the door. It wasn't me who answered, but my mother. She recognized Chloe instantly and tried to slam the door in her face, but Chloe blocked it with her foot. Mrs. Hayes, Ethan, Chloe began, but my mother cut her off. You have some nerve coming here. Our Ethan is doing just fine now. We're very happy with Ava. Chloe tried to explain, but my mother just slammed the door in her face, yelling, Leave Ethan alone. Chloe stood on the doorstep, dejected. She wanted to ask where I was, but she had no reason to knock again. Defeated, she had no choice but to return to New York. When Leo saw his sister's toifei look, he knew she must have struck out at my parents' house. Did you see Ethan? He asked. Chloe shook her head. Leo was tempted to tell her where I was, but then he thought about everything I had been through. He decided this was for the best. If Chloe had to work to win me back, maybe she would actually appreciate me if she succeeded. Ethan spent years chasing you, and you never appreciated it, he said to her. Now that he's finally given up on you, you're starting to see how it feels, aren't you? Chloe didn't argue. She just let her brother lecture her. He was right. She deserved this. She had been wrong. Chloe was in a slump for days. Julian tried to see her a few times, but she sent him away. Seeing that his sister was genuinely remorseful, Leo finally took pity on her. Ethan's back from his trip, he told her. The moment she heard, Chloe was ready to fly to Los Angeles to find me. She took an overnight flight and arrived at my apartment complex just in time to see me walking out. She was about to call out to me when she saw Ava by my side. We were holding hands, and Ava said something that made me laugh. Seeing that bright, happy smile on my face made Chloe's heart ache. I used to smile at her like that, but now that smile belonged to someone else. Chloe stayed hidden behind some bushes, torturing herself by watching Ava and me together. She followed us as we walked to a different apartment building and went inside together. She was about to lose it, to run up there and confront us. But just as she was about to go upstairs, she saw Ava come back down, get in her car, and drive away. Only then did she manage to calm down. She told herself it wasn't real. Ava wasn't really my girlfriend. I was just using her to make her jealous. The thought gave her a renewed sense of hope. The next morning, Chloe dressed up, bought a bouquet of flowers, and went to my apartment. I had just woken up when I heard the knock. Assuming it was Ava, I opened the door, saying, "What are you doing here so early?" When I saw Chloe standing there, my first instinct was to slam the door in her face. But she was too quick, blocking it with her hand and holding out the flowers to me. I didn't take them. "How do you know where I live?" I demanded coldly. "Are you stalking me?" Chloe ignored my question. "Ethan, I was wrong about everything," she said. "I'm here to ask for your forgiveness." I had no patience for her excuses. I just wanted to close the door. But she was surprisingly strong, her obsession giving her a strength I couldn't match. I couldn't close the door. In fact, she was slowly prying it open. Just then, the elevator doors opened and Ava stepped out. She saw Chloe at my door, rushed over, pulled her away, and stood in front of me protectively. Chloe, what do you think you're doing? Chloe ignored Ava and continued to speak to me, her voice filled with emotion. Ethan, I broke up with Julian. I know I was wrong before, but I see that now. I know my own heart. Ethan, you don't have to use Ava to make me jealous anymore. I couldn't believe her audacity. Chloe, I'm with Ava because she's a wonderful person and I care about her. It has nothing to do with you. I've already told you we're even. It's over. Chloe refused to believe me and stubbornly started recounting stories from the years I pursued her. I couldn't take it anymore. I cut her off. Chloe, I've forgotten all of it. Please, just leave me alone. Chloe froze, her voice trembling. Ethan, what do you mean, you've forgotten? The day you abandoned me for Julian, I was in a car accident. I have amnesia. I've forgotten everything about you. Chloe couldn't believe it. Without those 7 years, she had nothing left to hold over me. Didn't you always hate me following you around? Isn't this better? I've forgotten you. You don't have to be annoyed by me anymore. No, Ethan, that's not true. I do like you, Chloe explained, her voice filled with panic. Seeing that I was done, Ava pushed the devastated Chloe aside. Chloe, Ethan has made himself perfectly clear. Don't ever come near my boyfriend again, or next time, I'm calling the police. With that, Ava closed the door, leaving a lost and dejected Chloe standing alone in the hallway. Chloe sat slumped against the wall outside my door for a long time before finally getting to her feet. She spoke softly to the closed door. Ethan, if you got your memory back, would you come back to me? She was convinced that if I could only remember, I would come back to her. After all, I had loved her for 7 years. How could I just let that go? Chloe returned to New York and began searching her house for anything connected to me, anything that might jog my memory. But after turning the house upside down, all she could find was a small sachet I had made for her, tucked away in a box in a storage closet. There was nothing else. She asked her housekeeper, "What happened to all the things Ethan gave me that were in the storage closet?" The housekeeper replied, "Ma'am, you told us to throw all of that out, remember?" Chloe waved her hand dismissively, frustrated, and continued to search, hoping to find some other trace of our shared past. Chloe took the one thing she had found and rushed back to Los Angeles. She waited outside my building all day until she finally saw me and Ava coming out together. Ignoring Ava completely, she rushed up to me and held out the sachet. "Ethan, do you remember this? You told me." I knocked it out of her hand, sending it to the ground. "Chloe, do you really think you can win me back with some old trinket? I've already told you I don't remember. We're done. Leave me alone." Seeing my resolve, Chloe reached for my hand to stop me from leaving, but Ava stepped between us. Enraged, Chloe punched Ava in the face. Ava didn't hesitate to punch her right back, and the two of them started fighting. I quickly grabbed Ava around the waist and pulled her away. "Ava, stop. Your lip is bleeding." Ava wiped the blood from her mouth, glared at the disheveled Chloe, and spat on the ground. "If you ever come near Ethan again, I'll do a lot worse than that." I took Ava's hand, gently tilting her face up to examine the cut on her lip. "It's split open. Let's go home and I'll clean it up." Watching us together, so intimate, Chloe felt a sharp pain in her chest. "Ethan," I heard Chloe call my name, but I didn't look back. I just kept walking, holding Ava's hand. Chloe wanted to run after us, but her feet felt like they were made of lead. All she could do was stand there and watch us walk away. She remembered getting into a fight over Julian in college. I had stepped in front of her to protect her, had gently tended to her scrapes afterward, but she had just found me annoying and pushed me away. The affection she now saw Ava receiving was something she could have had, but she had trampled on my love, had pushed away the man who had eyes only for her. Chloe stood there, dejected, long after we were gone. She didn't move until night had fallen. "Chloe." Hearing someone call her name, she thought for a moment it was me. She looked up eagerly, but it was only Julian. Chloe looked at him with pure disgust. "What are you doing here?" Julian's eyes filled with tears, and he looked at her with a pathetic expression. "Chloe, I know I was wrong. I'm so sorry for everything." He reached out to take her hand. Chloe pulled her hand away and stared at him coldly. The sudden movement made Julian stumble, and he nearly fell. He looked at her, pleading. "Chloe, I'm really sorry. You used to love me, remember?" His words only made her angrier. "You have the nerve to bring up the past? I gave you everything, and you used me over and over again." Seeing that his apologies were getting him nowhere, Julian decided to go on the offensive. "You think I have no right to talk about the past? What about you? How dare you bring up the past with Ethan? How are you any better than me? You were following me?" Julian sneered. "Yes, otherwise, I would have missed that spectacular show." Having been rejected by me again and again, and now being mocked by Julian, Chloe finally snapped. She lunged at him, her hands closing around his throat. As she squeezed, his face began to turn red, and he struggled for breath. Unable to break free, he just started to laugh, gasping out, "What's the point of hurting me? You're the one who hurt Ethan over and over again, not me." Julian's face went from red to a deathly pale, and he was about to pass out. Chloe let go, and he collapsed to the ground, clutching his throat and gasping for air. Chloe looked down at him, her voice cold. "I'm going to tell everyone the truth about everything you used me for." She thought it was the only way she might have a chance of winning me back. Julian panicked. He tried to get up, but after the near-death experience, his limbs were weak and useless. He could only crawl toward her, grabbing the hem of her pants. "You can't, Chloe," he begged. "I didn't mean it. I was wrong." Chloe looked down at his hand on her pants in disgust. "Let go." Julian knew that if the truth came out, he would be ruined. He clung to her, hoping she would take pity on him. When he didn't let go, Chloe kicked his hand away and walked off. Julian lay on the ground, watching her walk away, his mind racing with a crazed jealousy. Why did Ethan get the love of two women while he was treated like this? Consumed by his resentment, he muttered to himself, "If Ethan were dead, would Chloe come back to me?" I was so worried about Chloe showing up again that I didn't leave my apartment for 2 days. Ava, worried I was becoming a hermit, suggested we go out on a date. But looking at the still healing cut on her lip, I thought of Chloe's shamelessness and shook my head. What if she shows up again? Ava hugged me tight, stood on her tiptoes, and kissed my cheek. "It's okay. I'll protect you." I hesitated for a moment, but then I agreed to go. Ava took me to a nearby mall. Just as we were about to go inside, we saw her again, like a ghost that wouldn't leave us alone. Chloe. We turned to leave, but she ran toward us, reaching for me. At that exact moment, a car came screeching out of nowhere, heading straight for me. I was frozen in fear, unable to move. Both Chloe and Ava saw the car speeding toward me and rushed to pull me out of the way. "Ethan, move!" Ava was closer and managed to yank me aside. But the car was moving too fast and it still hit us. She threw her arms around me, shielding me as we tumbled to the side. My head slammed against a nearby planter. Ava held me tight, but her leg had been hit by the car, and her arm was scraped up from the fall. Ignoring the pain in her own leg and arm, Ava immediately checked on me. She saw the blood on my head and that I'd passed out. "Somebody call an ambulance," she screamed at the onlookers. Chloe ran over then, trying to get to me, but Ava, using what little strength she had left, shoved her away. "You should be more concerned with what Julian just did," Ava yelled at her. In that split second before the impact, as she was pulling me away, Ava had seen the driver. It was Julian. Chloe looked over at the car and finally saw who was in the driver's seat. Julian. He had crashed into another planter after hitting us. The airbags had all deployed, and smoke was pouring from the engine. Chloe ran to the car and dragged Julian out. He had a head injury from the crash and was barely conscious. But Chloe didn't care. She threw him to the ground. "How could you do this? If anything happens to Ethan, I swear I will never forgive you." In the distance, the wail of police and ambulance sirens grew closer. The next time I woke up, I was in a hospital. I stared at the ceiling tiles above me, disoriented for a moment, before I tried to sit up. A nurse rushed to my side to stop me. I grabbed her arm, my voice filled with panic. "Ava? Where is she? Is she okay?" The nurse tried to calm me down. "The woman who was brought in with you is in the room next door." "How is she? Is she badly hurt?" I was on the verge of tears, my voice cracking. "She's fine. She has a broken leg, but the rest are just cuts and bruises. Her life is not in danger." Her answer didn't calm me. I wouldn't be able to relax until I saw for myself that Ava was okay. I ignored the nurse's protests and insisted on going to see her. We were at a standoff when the door opened, and another nurse wheeled Ava into my room. Seeing she was all right, I hugged her and burst into tears. "I'm so glad you're okay." Ava stroked my hair, calming me down. "The doctor said you have a mild concussion. You need to stay in bed and rest, and try not to get too worked up." She gently guided me back onto the bed, then wheeled her chair up beside me. "Ethan." The door opened again, and Chloe walked in, carrying a gift basket, her face etched with worry. Ava and I both frowned at the sight of her. "Get out," I said, pointing at the door. Chloe set the basket down and tried to explain. "I didn't know what Julian was planning. I didn't let her finish." I grabbed the basket she'd set down and hurled it at her. She just stood there and took it, not even flinching. "Ethan, if this will make you forgive me, then do whatever you want." I just sneered. "Chloe, do you really think playing the victim is going to make me forgive you? Do you think a few half-hearted apologies can make up for the 7 years of misery you put me through?" Hearing me mention the 7 years, Chloe's eyes widened, and she stepped forward excitedly. "Ethan, you remember?" At her words, Ava shot a worried glance in my direction. She wasn't sure if the few months we'd had together could possibly compete with 7 years of history. I saw the fear in Ava's eyes and squeezed her hand reassuringly before turning back to Chloe. "I remember everything. But Chloe, what on earth makes you think I would ever come back to you? In all those 7 years, did you ever show me a single moment of kindness? The only thing you could even find to try and jog my memory was something I shamelessly gave to you. Do you have a single thing that holds a happy memory for us?" My questions left her speechless. I went on. "It's been 7 years. You're tired of me and I'm tired of this. I found the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. Please, just let me go." It was a rejection, but it was also a plea. "I'm sorry," Chloe whispered. Then she turned and fled the room. "Ethan," Ava asked, her voice a mixture of hope and nervousness. "The person you want to spend your life with, is that me?" I squeezed her hand and looked her straight in the eye. "Yes, Ava Rhodes. I, Ethan Hayes, want to spend the rest of my life with you." Chloe had just stepped out of my room when Julian grabbed her. He was pale and looked nothing like his former self. He clutched her sleeve like a drowning man. "Chloe, I can't go to prison." Chloe had already released the evidence of Julian's plagiarism, along with proof of everything else he'd done. The damage that had been done to Rhodes Corp's reputation was now coming back to haunt Julian and Sullivan Enterprises. He had been fired, and the internet was tearing him apart. On top of that, he was being investigated for hitting me with his car. He was facing years in prison. Julian couldn't accept it. His only hope was to beg Chloe for help and to convince me to sign a statement of forgiveness. Chloe pried his fingers from her sleeve, one by one. "No, Chloe, please, you have to help me. It was just a moment of insanity. I didn't want to kill him. I swear I didn't." Chloe shoved him to the floor. "You can tell that to the police." With those words, she extinguished his last glimmer of hope. He collapsed completely, sobbing on the hospital floor. "I heard about what happened to Julian from Ava. Chloe came to see you a few days ago," Ava said one day, catching me by surprise. "Why are you bringing her up?" Things had been quiet lately. It seemed like Chloe had finally taken my words to heart and was leaving us alone. Ever since I'd regained my memory and told her I loved her, Ava had been completely secure in our relationship. She no longer saw Chloe as a rival. "She came to tell you that she'd looked into everything and that Julian had been sent to prison." Ava paused for a moment. "She said she spent 7 years trampling on your heart, and now it's her turn to chase you." I was not the least bit moved. I made a gagging motion at Ava, and we both burst out laughing. "Ethan, you really don't love her anymore?" I kissed her on the cheek. "I've answered that question a million times, but I'll answer it one last time. Ethan Hayes loves, and will always love, only Ava Rhodes." At my answer, Ava pulled out a ring. "I know it's not traditional for the woman to propose, and maybe this is a little impulsive, but I can't wait any longer. Ethan Hayes, will you marry me?" I looked at her, at this proposal with no cheering crowd, no grand spectacle, and I could hear my own heart pounding in my chest, and an undeniable voice inside me screaming, "Say yes." "I will." After returning from Los Angeles, Chloe fell into a deep depression. She locked herself in her house and drank day and night. When Leo finally let himself in, the stench of stale alcohol hit him so hard he had to step back. He waited a moment, then pinched his nose and went inside. Chloe was sitting on the floor, slumped against the couch. When she saw someone had come in, a flicker of hope appeared in her eyes, but it died as soon as she saw it was just Leo. "Stop drinking," Leo said, snatching the bottle from her hand. Chloe just grabbed another bottle and took a long swig. "What do you want?" Leo nudged her with his foot, annoyed. "Just making sure you haven't drunk yourself to death." Despite his harsh words, he still felt sorry for his sister. He went to the kitchen and made her some soup. Chloe stared at the bowl of soup he offered her but didn't take it. Leo set it down on the coffee table. "It's a recipe I got from Ethan." At the mention of my name, Chloe's eyes flickered. She picked up the bowl and took a sip. The familiar taste brought tears to her eyes. She drank the entire bowl, the salty taste of her tears mixing with the soup. "Can you please talk to Ethan for me?" she sobbed. "I was so wrong. Leo had promised me he would stay out of things between me and Chloe." He was about to refuse, but looking at his sister, so pale and broken, he couldn't bring himself to say no. He sighed. "I'll see what Ethan says." When Leo got home, he was just about to call me when his phone rang. It was me. "Leo, you were calling me?" "No, I was calling you. I'm getting married, and I want you to be my best man." Back when I was chasing Chloe, I had told Leo that if we ever got married, I wanted him to be my best man. Even though I wasn't marrying Chloe, I was still holding him to that promise. Leo was so shocked to hear I was getting married that he was speechless for a long moment. "Leo? Leo?" He didn't snap out of it until he heard me calling his name through the phone. "Of course, man. Of course I'll be your best man." He swallowed the questions he had been about to ask about Chloe. He tried to hide it, but I could still hear the strange note in his voice. "Leo, is there something you wanted to ask me?" He hesitated for a moment before answering. "No, nothing. When's the wedding?" Leo figured that if I was getting married, I must have finally found someone who truly loved me. I had suffered so much because of his sister. Now that I had found happiness, the best thing he could do as a friend was to support me. As for his sister, this was a lesson she had to learn on her own. The next time Leo went to Chloe's house, she immediately rushed to him. "What did Ethan say?" "He's getting married." Leo watched as Chloe's straight spine seemed to collapse, as if all the life had been drained out of her. "Chloe, he's moved on. You need to move on, too." Chloe didn't answer. She just sat there in silence. The day before Leo was set to leave for Los Angeles, Chloe found him and gave him a small jewelry box. "This is a comb I carved myself. Give it to him as a wedding present." It was obvious who the gift was for. "I'll give it to him. Don't just give it to him, and don't tell him it's from me." She paused. "He won't take it if he knows it's from me." Leo didn't say anything else. He just took the box. Before the ceremony, Leo handed me the jewelry box. "A wedding gift. I wish you both a lifetime of happiness." I took the box and opened it. Inside was a hand-carved sandalwood comb. I stared at it for a moment, then handed the box back to him. "This is from Chloe, isn't it?" Leo looked surprised that I knew. Back then, it was a trend to make handmade gifts for the person you liked. I had made a sachet and begged Chloe to take it. I never dared to dream she would make me a comb, but I had hoped she might buy me one. To receive the gift I had longed for all those years ago. Now, on my wedding day, it just felt absurd. "I'm a married man now. It's not appropriate for me to accept this. Please give it back to her." Leo sighed and put the comb away. The ceremony proceeded without a hitch. The bride and groom will now exchange rings. As Ava kissed me, she caught sight of Chloe standing in the far corner of the hall. Their eyes met. Ava squeezed my hand and gave a small, subtle nod in Chloe's direction. A bitter taste filled Chloe's mouth, and she turned and left the ceremony. People always have to pay the price for their mistakes. She could never be the one by my side. "Did you just wave to someone?" I asked. "It was nothing, just someone unimportant," she replied. I put all other thoughts out of my mind and looked at the woman before me. Our fingers intertwined, and with our family and friends watching, I kissed my true happiness.